language didn't mean anything to me. So even if I was saying a bad word, it didn't really mean anything because it was just like not something I understood. Anyways,
Oh, I was fully conscious. I mean, when they were saying it, when they, okay.
yeah, yeah, for sure. All right, maybe we'll take one more. Anyone else want to go ahead? All right, I can maybe try sharing. Um, yeah, kind of similar to what you guys have been saying. I remember seeing like, oh man, or like little like phrases like that my friends like caught me on. But yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you everyone for sharing. And hopefully this is a nice segue to what we'll be talking about today. And I'm really, really excited to welcome back Harinamananda to Wisdom Wednesdays. If you've been to one of his talks, you already know what story and how you're going to express and happen. Thanks so much, Nanda, for bringing us just a quick introduction about him. He's a full-time monk and he's a world traveler. He spends his time learning about spirituality and then giving it so selflessly and sharing that wisdom so that we can then find our own inner peace and happiness with this practice. Yeah. And over to you, Harinamananda. And we're so excited to hear about the power of association and getting your association today.
All right, thank you so much for having me. I'm in New York at the moment. I saw I saw Ian there. I thought he'd still be in New York. I just saw him for brief moments. I thought he was hanging out for the upcoming Rath Yatra festival. Big festival, thousands of devotees coming from all over the world to associate, basically. And pretty much that's the best of association. But for me, being in New York, to make sure no one's listening, my hate has grown more and more being in New York. Walking the streets, being in the subway, uh, just hearing just feeling people's energy here in New York City. I told one of my friends, my hate is building more and more. I'm not usually hateful, kind of like relaxed, easygoing. But hate, don't use so much. But this time I said it. So my friend who he spends a lot of time in New York, he goes, "Yes, that's the way. That's the New York way." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So he told me one Swami, he just came from India where everything is like from a holy place, everything's positive, blissful, spiritual, and everything's like on high consciousness. But he landed in New York, got in a taxi. He asked the taxi driver, "How's life?" And he said, "Lousy." And he goes, "Yes, I'm in New York now." So association can come in so many ways through not just people, but we can do it through music, cultures, cities have a certain vibration that you associate with. Um, Literature, even with objects. Say I don't know if you ever did like a road trip, a long drive, and you'll be driving. In the beginning, you're a human being, a caring human being, and then when you drive longer, say after an hour, then you're like, okay, and you sort of feel a bit more mechanical. Then after like 2 or 3 hours, that the car is such like an aggressive instrument, you could say. It's like if anyone's doing engineering, it's just an explosion constantly going on inside the engine. It roars. It's cutting through the road, and you see all the insects that you kill on the windscreen, or like you see the roadkill on the side of the road. It's a really aggressive instrument. part of an aggressive society. And then you suddenly become one with the machine, and then if someone cuts you off, then you're like, road rage, and you wish you had a flamethrower or something. You want to get that person, and just from an object, you develop such a mentality. Um, from music, we can also have developed a mentality. Uh, from even comedians, you could develop a mentality. So in so many ways, we're constantly associated with someone, something, or an idea, and a manifestation of that idea. It could be a society, it could be music or whatever else. So um, what do we do in terms of making sure we're in the right association? What is the best association? So I have a verse here from a scripture called Srimad Bhagavatam. And in Sanskrit literature, usually you don't repeat anything. You say it once, that's it. You don't need to repeat yourself. It's like an authoritative statement. But this particular verse has been repeated twice in this particular scripture, which is known as like the conclusion of all uh, Vedic scriptures, called Srimad Bhagavatam. So I'll read it for you and we'll reflect on it. Is that okay? So the chant, yeah, we'll say Sanskrit because Sanskrit also has that power to it. So in Sanskrit it says Tu Yama Vinavapi Naswaga Na Puna Bhavan Bhagavad Sangi Sangasya Matanam Kim Utashisha. So the translation is the value of a moment's association with a devotee of the Lord cannot be compared even with the value of attaining the heavenly planets or liberation from matter. And what to speak of worldly benedictions in the form of material prosperity, which are for those who are meant for death. So here, the association of a devotee is so valuable, even a moment is so powerful. It's so powerful that it can save you from repeated birth and death. And it doesn't matter what situation you're in, it is that powerful. I'll give a personal example. If you met me 20 years ago, I had all these dreadlocks, I had a big beard, I was working in a bar trying to become a hotshot graphic designer and a DJ and teaching martial arts. So definitely not the monk you're seeing today. And obviously, if working in a bar means you have more access to alcohol, so you're literally bound to become an alcoholic no matter what. And for some reason, I went on a spiritual quest, or I went on a quest to find out who I was. Because growing up in Australia, I was born in Australia, and my parents come from like a Hindu Indian background. So, all my friends are Aussies. So I always had this problem. If I want to hang out with Indians, I was too Aussie. If I want to hang out with the Australians, I was too Indian. So I was wondering, who the hell am I really? So my parents were born in Malaysia. So I was thinking maybe it's like a Malaysian Indian thing, and I'll find out where I fit in there. So I went to Malaysia, met all my relatives, and I was thinking more in a spiritual mood. So I go to different temples, and I try to relate to my relatives, but they were just doing the same thing as anyone else would do in Australia. Work hard on the weekend, hit the bar, drink a lot, and just nothing to do with self-realization. But there was one Hindu festival called Thaipusam. It's a celebration for the son of Lord Shiva. His name is Kartikeya. In the Tamil language, they call him Muruga. You may see a picture of him. He holds like a spear. He rides a peacock. It's quite interesting. interesting image of a demigod. So apparently 1.1 million people come for this festival, and it's held at a what's called the Batu Cave. So the temple's inside a cave. It's really an amazing place worth a visit if you go to Kuala Lumpur. So the spectacle of this celebration is that there's people who do certain prayers for like austerities for a month, shave their head, and then on that particular day, they pierce rods through their cheeks, their tongue, hooks in their back, and then they carry this heavy apparatus. It's like made out of wood. They call it kawadi. And then they're playing like insane drums and they're dancing to and they're supposed to be in a trance. So I was thinking, yeah, maybe I should do that too. So once I walked into this festival, the first thing I noticed was that I asked my relatives, like, I saw like the girls and guys are flirting. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't this a spiritual festival? Why are they doing this here? My cousin says, well, where else are they going to meet? I'm like, okay, whatever. A little bit disappointed. And then I saw, like, finally, these people, they have to carry this wooden apparatus up all these stairs into the cave temple. And there's like thousands of them waiting. So they have a support team with each person. I was like observing. And then I saw one of the support members give a chulam to the guy carrying the wooden apparatus. A chulam is like ganja, pretty much. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh no, this is fake too. There's nothing in this, you know. They're just going on like some artificial high, you could say. There's nothing spiritual about it. That's like my conclusion. So I was so kind of depressed. It's like, oh, this is useless. Why is this going on? I mean, I came here for some answers, but nothing's working. So at this fest, I saw all this commercialism. There was like a Ferris wheel. There's all these fun rides. I saw like so many tents of people selling things, thousands of tents. But I went to one tent, and because I came from an arts background, I was studying arts and design in university. So I wanted to like look at some posters, and I found a beautiful poster of Radha and Krishna. It said like the divine couple on the bottom. If you see this poster, it's a beautiful poster. So much detail, it's really artistic. And I thought this was very beautiful, so I decided to buy it. And then the man at the tent, he goes, "Oh, Hare Krishna." I was, "Oh, Hare Krishna." And at that time, I wasn't into Krishna consciousness or Bhakti Yoga, but my father was into it. So I told the man, "Yeah, my father is into Hare Krishna, you know." And he's like, okay. Then he gave me this bag of like dried fruit and nuts, and I didn't think anything of it. I ate them, and you think nothing happened, right? So then my relatives, my cousins, will invite me to come and drink with them. And for some reason, I would drink alcohol, just a little sip, then the switch would go on, and I'll be depressed. I was like, what the hell's going on? It's not working. The trip, the alcohol stopped working. And I was thinking, right, it's Malaysian alcohol. I know. When I get back to work in Australia, it's gonna work. Go back to Australia, and it, same thing happened. The switch went on, depression. So okay, this doesn't work for me anymore. I don't know why, but it doesn't anymore. I worked in this bar for another year without drinking. I was amongst amongst my workmates. I became like a sage, whatever. But it was also because of me. I got a moment of association, not just of this devotee, but the dry fruits and nuts that he gave me. They were offered to Krishna with love and devotion. It was what's called Mahaprasada or great mercy. And that allowed me to give up alcohol, even when surrounded by such a like degrading atmosphere for a whole year. And just from giving up alcohol, my consciousness started to clear. And I remember working in the bar, putting a drink at the table for someone, and thinking in my head, this is not gonna work, right? So my consciousness started clearing. Eventually, came to the point where I was ready to have received knowledge from the actual books themselves. The short story is that my mother actually gave me a book called Science of Self-Realization. And 6 months later, I decided to, once I finished my degree, I moved into the temple and became a monk. So I feel like those two things there was like this. I'm sure you've had sanctified food before at one of some of the events that have been held. It's not ordinary food. You can even it's better than vegetarian. There's some magic to it. A friend of mine, I asked her, um, she was following like some spiritual path, but it was more impersonal. And I said, okay, how was it when you first had this Mahaprasada, this great mercy in the form of food? She goes, once I ate it, I felt like my whole face was glowing. That was like realization. My face started glowing, you know. And yes, the experience is overwhelming from the association. So when the association is centered around God, the Supreme Lord, called Krishna, then a different, a different, a different realm takes place. The spiritual realm. You've had a peak of the spiritual realm. You're at a peak of what it's like to live as a spiritual being, beyond all these designations of this material world, beyond this world of desire and hate. That's pretty much the world we live in. I mean, look at the news; it's getting more terrible, and we know it, and we don't know what to do. I don't know if any of you study arts in university, but usually the most profound artwork or projects is when you call out the material world of all its like violence, exploitation, and degradation. Exploitation due to sex, drugs, and violence. And that's like a very powerful thing. So uh, this is for that. Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, so that's a very powerful thing, if you put out a project like that. But they never give the solution. The solution is that we need association with that which is allows you to experience life beyond death, a happiness that goes beyond this body. So that association can only take place in those who are devoted to that path, who are devoted to um, experiencing a love that's beyond time, place, and thought. That love can't be experienced when one thinks it's all one and it's an energy. There's a lot of people who have such a belief system or a spiritual path. But love can only take place when there is two, the lover and the beloved. But if it's all one and it's just like homogenous kind of coming together and your individuality doesn't exist anymore, where's the question of love? When we try to experience love through the material bodies, time takes it away. Someone has to die, or it runs out of juice. There's a saying like when you see someone, you feel like they have an ocean of great qualities. This person is perfect. Then you walk around that pond and you don't want to see that person again. So it runs out of juice because we're basing it on something that's temporary. And you say, wow, this is pessimistic. There's some happiness in this world. No way. Because it's temporary. Happiness plus temporary means misery. So you need some happiness that has no beginning and no end. That goes beyond this material body. That goes on the platform of the soul, the spiritual body, the spiritual senses. And that can only take place when we connect to our source. When we connect to, when we can answer these questions, where do I come from? What happens to me after death? Why do I have to suffer? That isn't, No one's asking these questions. Only the devotees, only those who are dedicated to spiritual path, not only they're asking, but they're answering the questions and living it. When you come in touch with these events that take place here online or in the I don't know what the center is called or your studio is called, but yes, Bhakti Studio, yes, what a what a unique name, Bhakti Studio, yes, Bhakti is simply that spiritual love that goes beyond time, space, and thought. When you're away from someone for a long time, you give up that love. You know, I gave the example before. You had classmates in elementary school, best friends forever. The next grade, change classes, and you have new friends, and you don't really have so much feeling for that person. And then thought you may have someone who's passed away, and thinking about them is not the same as them being there. But when you think of Krishna, actually the thought becomes so real as if you're embracing Krishna in your heart. And that's the love that's able to be experienced in Bhakti Yoga. So how are we gonna do? How do we practically do this devotee association? So there's one devotee. He said something about the Kumbh Mela. So the Kumbh Mela is like the biggest spiritual gathering in the history of the world. Happens. I have like a small one every 12 years and a big one every 144 years. So it just happened recently, 144 years. And the idea is that there's a particular time where you bathe in the Ganges, and it's said there's like an immortal nectar that goes in that Ganges at that time you bathe, and you have a good chance of being immortal. So millions of people there. And say for example you're like at the edge, and then it's time to bathe, but you think, nah, the water's too cold, I don't want to go. It doesn't matter. Crowd will pick you up and put you in the Ganges River, right? So, in the same way, if we stay really packed up amongst those who are dedicated to spiritual love, to having a life that goes beyond death, a happiness beyond death, you stay packed up with them. So, even if you change your mind that I don't want to go back to the spiritual world, it doesn't matter. These devotees, these personalities will pick you up and put you back into the spiritual. And look at devotee association, it's so nice. You know, the people you talk about real things. Who talks about this stuff? Otherwise, when you're talking to ordinary people, it's like, how's the weather? Oh, it's good, it's bad. You only talk about the weather. How much can you talk about the weather? You know, who talks about the meaning of life, like on a regular basis? Who talks about death on a regular basis? No one. It's all hidden away. You're all distracted by material energy. Forget it. You're not gonna do it. Who who does like music that's so uplifting that you don't have to wait to the weekend to party to at some nightclub or bar, waiting line to get in. And, oh, I have to get a little tipsy, and then you have to wait till midnight or whatever to get some high, and then it's cold outside. You have to walk home drunk, and they get hangover. Some people wake up to next to someone they don't even know. What kind of party is that? But you join the kirtan party. There's no uh you don't need an image. There's no prerequisite. There's no like exclusiveness. It's all inclusive. Anyone can join in. And it's so easy, just three words, and you dance and chant together, and you feel so happy. Whatever cobwebs of the working week, the studying week, just goes out the window. And the food is so amazing, you know. Uh, and it's not that like you come there like to a restaurant and say, okay, people want to go to like the best chef, you know. But if you look at the chef in the kitchen, he's like angry, he's swearing at his staff, he's throwing things everywhere, you know, he's even tasting it. He's like, oh, come on, you know. But how is this food prepared? People are meditating before it. They're praying. they have this love for Krishna, which means they love all living entities. It's all included in their offering. They don't taste it, they don't smell it. And then any karma that's attached to that food is taken away and is put with Krishna's mercy, Krishna's blessing, and you get to taste that. And you're probably saying, they, oh, would you like some more? You can take some home if you like. What restaurant does such a thing? No, you can talk about the most five-star restaurant, but you'll never get such association. So yeah, so this is the great gift that's there for us in this association. That we can experience that love, that happiness that goes beyond time, space, and thought. So I'll stop here and see if you have any comments. I speak a short time, so we'll see if you have any thoughts or questions.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I really liked the example that you gave that even if you don't want to be pushed, if you're in a tight packed group, they'll make sure that you're gonna go inside and people will push you. And I've really seen that in my personal life. I had a question about associate. Um, sometimes we might want positive association around us, but there may be circumstances that forces us to interact with people that maybe we don't want to become like. Um, and it's harder to completely close ourselves off because that might be a little rude or insensitive. So I was wondering what is the right mood and to have in that situation without seeming too closed off.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a story about a husband and wife. And the wife has a lover outside the relationship. And this wife, she's always thinking when I'm gonna meet my lover. So in the house, she'll do all the housework probably more meticulously than usual, just so the husband doesn't suspect a thing. Everything very nice. So the husband wouldn't think, okay, the husband's thinking she's faithful, she's into what I'm into. She's very nice. But she's just thinking about when I'm gonna meet my lover. So in the same way, a spiritual person is like that. How? So you're at university, or you're at work, or amongst family. They may be into something that's degrading or materialistic, and you want to be spiritual, and maybe you won't even speak about these things. Sometimes they even encourage you to be degraded and materialistic. So what you do is that you act as if you're interested, you know, just so it it just covers the whole thing of like, being like distant or like closed off. You superficially agree. Yeah, yeah, I'll drink beer tomorrow. Today I had to drive, so. Or like, oh yeah, yeah, I really want to get $1 million. Oh, I really want that promotion at work. I really want to get honors and high distinctions. I don't know the grade system in university. In Australia, they call it high distinction. Yeah, so you talk about these things as if you're interested, but your interest is only when I'm gonna be in the kirtan, when I'm gonna have prasadam, when I'm gonna like read the books, when I'm gonna like talk philosophy with some devotees, when I'm gonna like do something that's for my eternal benefit. So you superficially do it so they don't give you a hard time about what you're doing. And then at the same time, they don't feel like you're closed off. And then eventually they'll have to go through the sufferings of the material world, and they'll see you're very peaceful, you're very elevated, you're shining even, and they'll ask you, "What do you do?" It seems like you do what we do. You study like us, you work like us. you're part of the family, I guess, but it seems like you have something different. So they'll start to inquire. But if you sort of go head to head and say like, no, this is materialistic, you should do the spiritual thing, then there'll be distance for always. She's always into the spiritual stuff, nothing to do with me. But if you superficially agree with their suggestion to be materialistic, and then you can give some excuse if they try and involve you. Oh, I have to have an early and I have to work tomorrow. Usually that's the best excuse. I have an exam tomorrow, I have an assessment due. You can tell it, oh yeah, we understand because this is part of your material success. Okay, sure. We don't want to get in the way. So so that's it sounds like you're being hypocritical, but actually you're being helpful to yourself and them at the same time. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, that's amazing. It's really helpful. Um, it feels that I don't need to like prove what I stand for to like other people, and it's okay to kind of protect my own peace, even if that means kind of agreeing and being out there and not being closed off. Yeah.
Like I'll give you an example. Like my brother, he's not into spiritual life. And he'll give me his opinion. Like I believe in this and the government should do that and you really have to he'll talk about so many philosophies. Oh, that's interesting, that's interesting. And then I will go, hey, you're watching the NBA finals or what? And then we have something to sort of share about. I'm not into it, I don't care. I'm just waiting for him to ask me spiritual questions. But it's not gonna happen anytime soon. But sometimes he'll bring something up. And then that's when I will answer it, and then we go back into normal conversation. So I will never bring up spirituality. If it comes from their side, okay, I'll answer something, but that's it. Because they'll become like more distant. You know.
I like that. Thank you.
Any other stories or thoughts from your side about getting association? That'd be nice to hear.
I couldn't help but hear your analogy with cars, and we we just have such a love affair with our cars, and they're an extension of our personalities, and then it's just the way people handle themselves, and especially when the weather gets warmer like it is now in our area, and people just go berserk. I mean, you mentioned road rage. Uh, yeah, it scares me. I used to love to drive. I don't like driving anymore because you get out on the road and somebody just thinks that they own the road and everybody else is just they're in their way. But also, I noticed when you mentioned music, of course, you have this violent music, um, rap, screamo. Um, my daughter listens or used to listen to screamo, but now actually go back 100 years. There was a Swedish composer, Gustav Holst, and he created this suite called The Planets. And the first one that came out was Mars, the Bringer of War. And this was released just before World War One, blew up. And I don't know if you've listened to this piece, but it starts off kind of okay, and then just rises into this crescendo of brass and percussion, um, like guns firing and people shooting each other and killing each other. And you have this image of this Roman god of war just out of control. And then he, he comes up with this piece afterward, Venus, the bringer of peace, and it calms you down. So music definitely can affect you, and that's how people associate. I just noticed that parallel.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds very powerful. Um, Movie makers understand this very deeply that music is usually used to generate emotion. Any horror movie, it's usually because of the sound that you sort of jump and get scared more than the actual visual. So, yeah, so, and I don't know if you knew that pretty much 99% of the sound that's shot in a movie is completely replaced. And they have what's called sound designers who work really hard to um, place the sound in such a way to invoke a certain emotion or part of the storytelling, something like that. And you can probably find this. You could try one time your favorite movie, and then just have the soundtrack playing. And then with that soundtrack, you can see the colors that are taking place. Maybe there's a big building or like a ship. It's a comedy like that. It'll shape the whole thing. So sound is probably the most subtle yet most powerful way of association for us. So yeah, what you put in your ears can affect your consciousness big time.
I also,
Yes, we do. Mantra.
I'm into particularly Celtic music, and this one associate that I had, he was Irish American, and he's he's repeated this often quoted saying, "Surely the Irish must be mad. They're warring so merry and they're singing so sad."
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, you get music from particular times to reflect, uh, um, like in from communist times, there's like music. Different times can reflect the feeling of the time, different music. But yeah, we want the music of the spiritual world. And yeah, we want to go back home into that atmosphere again. So kirtan is always a winner. And that's the process of self-realization in this age. To associate with God directly through His holy name. And you'll find this chanting of holy name of God in all spiritual practices, all religious traditions. They will have beads. I've got mine here, and they're saying the names of God. Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Jews, all have beads for calling out to God. It's like a science that has to take place. Well, to speak of singing hymns in congregation, um, song and dance, it's like originally a spiritual offering. Actually, the best songs were actually glories of God. I don't know if you listen to gospel; it's so uplifting. Actually, even architecture. When people travel around the world, usually the best buildings are those that are dedicated to God. Anything else is just like some weird, like abstract, angle. It looks weird. And that's supposed to be architecture, but it's always about going to like some big church or big temple or big mosque, and affects your consciousness. That's also association. Why is my throat disappearing? I don't know. Sorry about this. Too much chanting. They've been singing in the streets too much. And all the pollution from the street maybe went in my throat. I don't know. Mm.
Yeah, when I was in
Um,
New York, I could feel the pollution in the streets. It was a weird smell I've never experienced anywhere else.
It stinks in you. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was snacking uh during some of the talk, and I was thinking about even how we can associate with food, and how food has the ability to uh alter our consciousness as well. And I think you're touching on this a little bit, how like there could be a chef who's, screaming and yelling and cursing at his other helpers, and that's like the consciousness that goes into the food. So I was resonating with that point. And then I was also thinking about, when I was in New York, you all were chanting in Times Square. And I was just thinking about how randomly people would come in and like dance or sing and just participate. And, typically in Times Square, if there was just one or two people doing it, or perhaps if you were doing it as one or two people, you'd get other people to sing, chant, and dance. But if I was just sitting there alone doing it, it wouldn't work. But because there were so many people doing it together, the power of association was so much stronger, and it was so much more combustible, or um, I don't know what to. Oh, the word is not coming in my mind, but it was just so much more contagious. Contagious, yeah, I guess contagious. Um, Amongst the people who are in Times Square, which some people might say is the most materialistic part of the world, but the juxtaposition was just so magical to experience.
Yeah, I think that's the amazing thing about this chanting, that it can be done at any time, any place. Even in the most materialistic circumstances. They describe like if you have a jewel that's on a black background, it stands out more. So this chanting is the jewel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think someone else to talk because someone's waving. Okay. And this is Tulsi.
You're being photobombed.
Oh, the monks are
You have amazing association.
Yes.
So I'm getting a lot here. I mean, for Rath Yatra, so many monks coming and Swami. Yeah, it's an amazing place for the
And
Hare Krishna movement.
How many
we wish we
monks
were
are?
in New York looking at. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just asking how many monks are there right now in New York living with you in that temple?
Uh, Probably like 30.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
That must be so inspiring, though. Just having like so much association, it like feels like pushes you to do so much more.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
even when you feel like you don't want to do it, just that association. I guess it's like the positive of peer pressure.
Mhm.
I have to relate something. A couple of years ago, whenever I would go out for a walk in the morning, there was this old man that would see me. Now, I live in the greater Seattle area, Redmond to be exact. So I was out and noticed this old man he would greet me. He didn't say anything. He would just do this, and I would return the gesture. And I finally said to him, "Namaste," and so he responded in kind. And I think he went back to India, but it was just the right moment that day that he greeted me. It was like a vibration that resonated and spread because it was just one person giving me this gesture and just returning it in kind. Um, I still get emotional about it.
Yeah, it's amazing. There's a verse in the Gita. It says that one who has the pure soul, he has control of his mind and senses. He is dear to everyone, and everyone is dear to him. So, actually, like, yes, when you get really good association from devotees, then you become like a beacon of that, and people tend to gravitate towards that in a positive way and somehow need to respect you or need to honor you in some way. So yeah, it's very powerful. It's contagious.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if anyone's told you, oh, you're glowing, or you seem so peaceful, but inside you feel like you're like a mess, you know. But that can also happen.
I've had many days like that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for sharing your reflections and questions. And thank you, Harinamananda, for sharing such a powerful talk on association. Um, it's definitely really, really important because we're associating with something or someone at every moment. So just being aware of that and being conscious of it is just so important. Um, and we really appreciated having you today in our circle. And yeah, and we'll close it off for tonight. And if you're in town in Seattle, we do have a Saturday Soul Fest at Bhakti Studio. And I believe we have a journaling workshop before that. I believe it's 3 to 5, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, 3 to 5. So if you want to learn about journaling, we have a speaker who's going to share his thoughts and how maybe you can share that. And then we'll have a Kirtan Soul Fest, basically a dance party with food. So you're all are welcome to join.